I began this adventure as a routinely trained cardiologist and eventually a molecular biologist interested in the heart cell structure. I never gave a thought as a young investigator to the fact that perhaps beyond reproductive physiology, men and women were different. This all changed for me with a visit. The American Heart Association had asked me if I would write a research paper or book on the differences between men and women's hearts. This set me to thinking. If the hearts of men and women were so different, then what about the other organs of the body? So I started out on this great adventure and went to my chairman and I said to him, I would like to examine the possibility that men and women are not identical in every one of their body systems. And he looked at me skeptically and he said, if you can find the resources to do that, go right ahead. And so it went. A judge who had given us the award for this book asked me if I would like to be a consultant to Procter and Gamble, who was interested in my telling them what products they could develop for women's health. I immediately said, I have a much better idea than just me as an individual consultant. Let's try to form a partnership between the medical school and Columbia University and Procter and Gamble to explore the idea that men and women are different. Probably one of the most exciting features of how the partnership was established between Procter and Gamble and Columbia was Craig Wynette. He was in charge of the development of new products for Procter and Gamble and told me that his interest was in finding new ideas for things that he could develop and sell for women's health. Do you have the confidence of your university? The only person who had confidence in this project besides me was my chairman, Dr. Myron Weisfeldt. These were the main players at P&G. Mr. T. George Harris was the broker who brought the idea of a partnership with Columbia to P&G.
Well, first, Marianne, let me say what an honor it is for you to be making a fuss over me for the work we did all those years ago, and watching the interview you did with Mike Weisfeldt got me reminiscing about all of this. One of the things that was immediately clear is that both Mike and I were both apparently real students of yours. You were a mentor to both of us. And in 1998, I was in charge of creating new businesses for Procter & Gamble.
Craig Wynette is my partner in being honored here because the truth was that Craig, as I remember, was really the worker bee who took over this program.
He was.
And I met with him on numerous occasions, and we had a good friendship and knowledge between the two of us. And it is just wonderful now to be part of a celebration of the creation of this enterprise and to be honored with him for our mutual role or respectful role in this success.
So ultimately, in a very different way, rather than starting with a specific idea, we started with a general idea. We started with the idea that we wanted to see what we could do to serve the world in a way that fell under the umbrella of women's health in general, but we didn't go in having any specific ideas. And the company believed, and obviously Columbia also believed, that there was sufficient opportunity, that this need was so big, was so profound, that the opportunities to create meaningful products within this were clear, although relatively abstract at the moment. So early on, to create and solidify a working partnership with Colombia and Dr. Legato. I remember going up to New York City with a check for $1 million in my briefcase, and was proud to deliver that to, I think at the time it was Dr. Pardes and Dr. Weisfeldt at Colombia.
My partnership with Craig Wynette has been one of the most exciting and fun-filled events of my entire scholastic and personal life. After 2 years of working together, Mr. Pepper and his entourage from Procter and Gamble arrived in Dean Pardes' office in 1997, and Mr. Pepper said to the Dean, "These 2 years have been very, very interesting for us. We will endow a partnership for women's health between Procter and Gamble and Colombia." The Colombia connection continues to thrive. We honor a young investigator each year as the Ferrer Fellow, honoring famed cardiologist and co-inventor of the cardiac catheter, Dr. M. Irene Ferrer. Dr. Landry, our current chairman, is here with us tonight. Here are the benefactors who helped us build the foundation. Isabel and Marvin Slobowitz negotiated our first fundraising steps.
I first became involved with the foundation as a guest at a Foundation Gala years ago. I also came to appreciate that issues of gender-specific medicine are issues of women's rights, which implicate moral principles, as do all issues of human rights. My continuing education in the area of gender-specific medicine instilled a wish on my part to play a role in supporting the Foundation's original scientific research, its creation of an evidence-based set of protocols to guide physicians, and the goal of the Foundation to educate both the lay public and the medical community.
Dr. Kirsten Healy, an accomplished cardiologist, is our associate director. Dr. Killian guides our fundraising strategy. Sam Knoll is our talented guide and advisor for how we allocate our resources. We would be nowhere without the constant, effective support of our two chairwomen, whose talents are evident in the beauty of tonight's setting. Their efforts on our behalf have been tireless.
I remember Marianne asked John Pepper and I at one point, what's your vision for how the world might look if we're wildly successful in, say, 10 or 20 years? And both of us said we saw one day coming to the Columbia or Harvard Medical School campus and seeing the big, tall, brand new women's health building as a sign of how successful we've been. And Marianne immediately said, what are you guys, a couple of idiots? That's the opposite of what needs to happen. What needs to happen is that if you do that, you will paradoxically guarantee that women's health will always be treated as something other than mainstream medicine, literally, maybe big and tall, but off to the side. What you want is that whatever we do is so integrated into the normal practice of medicine that it at some point becomes invisible. The lesson for me, especially for somebody who grew up in the new product business, is the temptation to sound the trumpets and cue up the band when you launch a product to make it exceptional, when in fact everything Marianne was teaching us is that the ultimate success for anything was to make it normal, just part of the way things are done.
Howard Burson, who founded the concept of public relations, was an invaluable guide as we negotiated a system of effective communication with the public. Ray and Penny Lieberman opened the treasury of the Dürfner Foundation to support us. One starts to review whether you've made a contribution that you think is worthy of what you had hoped. What do you feel looking back?
I feel that I have. It's never enough. I think that there's a lot more to do going forward. And I hope there are many more years left to continue doing what I'm doing today. It's up to him up there as to how long I'll be able to do this.
Mr. Tom Secunda's Family Foundation has given us spectacular support and has made it possible to fund scholars not only in the United States, but for the first time in the international community. The Birches have provided years of encouragement and generous support for us. Your financial advice to your friends has proven a boon to many of them, and they are great admirers of yours. And one of my favorite documents is this little booklet that they created of your important sayings, and it's modeled after the statements of Chairman Mao. So I want to read some of them. If you don't know the game, don't play. That's one of my favorites. He who borrows which isn't his'n must replace it or go to prison. Here's one that I like. There's no use waiting for your ship to come in if you haven't sent one out. So are you a big risk taker or a judicious risk taker for your investors and yourself?
I'm an opportunist. I take advantage of other people's mistakes. Our business is one of great ignorance and inefficiency, and that's its greatest attraction by far. Most people are not aware how little they really know, and therefore they create great opportunities for others.
Another favorite of mine. Men's tales of their conquest in the stock market are second only to their tales of their conquest of women and are to be believed accordingly.
Absolutely accurate. Most people tend to believe their success, remember their successes and tell you about them, not tell you about their failures.
Morton and Michael Dershin, loving and hugely successful brothers and friends of Mr. Birch, have helped support our program for years. Tell me what prompted the Mexicans to name a plane after you. What is your connection with Mexican air travel?
Early last year, the head of a low-cost Mexican airline called Volaris, which is the Southwest Airlines of Mexico, gave a speech, and typically at the end of the speech, everybody puts a business card in the bowl, and you generally will get, if the prize is a model airplane. In this case, he said, well, I'm doing something unique. We're going to have an all-expense paid trip for whoever wins this, for the person and the family, and we're going to name a plane after them. We're going to christen a plane after him.
I see.
I wasn't really paying much attention while he said it, but then he pulls out the card, and there it's me. But I was totally shocked. So I took my two daughters, Danielle and Taylor, on Thanksgiving. Last year we flew down to Mexico City, and we had a plane christened after me. I said to the folks there, I've been in aviation for 50 years. I never thought I'd have a plane named after me.
Pat Klingenstein, recently honored as a living landmark by the New York Landmarks Conservancy, heads a 4-generation philanthropic foundation. Tell us about your philanthropic adventures. You said your family manages several foundations.
Yes, one of which is neuroscience. One is the 3rd generation, also with a thrust of neuroscience, but they are interested in childhood depression, also in secondary education, and now early education. And then the 3rd prong is my mother's foundation, which is Children's Health in Maine.
So you have 4 generations of philanthropists?
Yes, we have.
Starting with your parents?
Starting with them, and us, then our children, and our children's children, my grandchildren.
Where would we be without family and friends? 3 generations of this group have been advisors, guides, and supporters for all of this great adventure.
As I was preparing for this interview, I did a Google search, and I typed in gender medicine, and what immediately popped up were dozens of articles on gender aspects of COVID. So here we are 30 years later, and what is a normal response, nobody had to convince those scientists to do those investigations. It was normal. It's part of what they considered their job, is just to now look at the gender aspects of virtually anything, including this deadly virus. Gender medicine is the founder, the innovator behind the creation of a net new discipline to the world, is to me one of the most astounding contributions anybody can make.
These major leaders at Johns Hopkins have partnered with us in an NIH-supported program to help select the best young scholars doing gender-specific research at their institution. These are only a few of our important international partners. Mitsuko Shimomura introduced gender-specific medicine to Japan 2 decades before the rest of the world.
It's a great pleasure that we have been working and collaborating together with Professor Legato, and we are planning new exciting research projects. We have done educational courses and events in Italy and also outside from Italy, and with everyone's support we will be able to move forward with research in this important area of medicine, and gender-specific medicine will be able to carry on all the studies and all the research achievements in this field.
The most exciting next adventure in collaboration with the Marianne Foundation is a unique symposium on space exploration, a second renaissance for humankind. It has been extremely gratifying to see the foundation grow in influence and power almost 3 decades later, and we have transformed the partnership now into an independent foundation for the study of gender-specific medicine. We maintain our ties with Dr. Weisfeldt at Johns Hopkins, as well as at Colombia, and we are supporting the careers of young scholars who are investigating the differences between men and women. We're now an internationally established science of gender-specific medicine. The subjects that we have uncovered and defined have been refined by many scholars around the world and are now part of medical school curricula in all the countries of Western Europe and in Asia. So the international community has welded together a confederation of dedicated scientists and even the public to support the notion that gender-specific medicine is no longer a wild idea in the mind of a few forward thinkers, but in fact is profoundly important as an ingredient for all scientific study and treatment of patients. As our adventure together continues, we are going to expand our impact, hopefully, beyond the United States and into the international community, reaching out with new grants for investigators throughout the world.
And I think maybe that's the biggest contribution of all, and it's one that Marianne led us to. I remember early on in the branding of this, I was strongly pushing for a very obvious focus on women's health. In fact, our original name, the Partnership for Women's Health at Colombia, from the very beginning, she wanted to focus on gender medicine, and I thought, I think you're just wrong, and boy, was I wrong. In fact, the biggest contribution I think she and to some lesser extent we made was that gender-specific medicine has become an authentic new discipline within medicine, but that it has become fundamental to the way medicine is practiced.
It's been a fruitful, lively, and completely rewarding partnership, particularly because of the devotion, intelligence, and dedication of Craig. My friends and my patients and my colleagues have all continued in the most amazingly consistent way to send support for us. This is not just a call for your continuing support, but more profoundly, a thank you for your incredible generosity in the support of what we are doing. I look forward to a future in which we continue to collaborate with you in the private sector to advance our concept of how the human race can best be served in our international effort to continue to promulgate and support young people and those organizations who are doing the best work in the pursuit of gender-specific medicine.